Hi guys and welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe and I'm joined by Nathan, and today we're going to be discussing the amazing anime, manga, just series in general. It's Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. Nathan, go on. I know you want to do it.
He's the hero of the show. Jojo! Oh, that really hurt. I don't know why I tried to push it out that high, but fucking hell, that hurt.
Right, okay, let's jump into it then, shall we? Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't even know how do you even go about describing Jojo's Bizarre Adventure?
It is a series about a protagonist that changes each time, often called Jojo, in some form. You will find the syllables or the wording for Jojo in first and last name. That's why they're called Jojo. And it's basically about good versus evil, but it's like a family lineage. Imagine, and I'm only saying this because I was watching a video about Castlevania's timeline last night. But imagine Castlevania, right? The Belmonts versus Dracula. That's Jojo. I mean, it actually is. If you think about it,
it's really spot on. Yeah.
The reason we say that is because if you know the memes, you know Dio is the bad guy, right? He's exactly. Thank you, Kono Dioda. Dio is a vampire, and the Joestar family or the Jojos are there to fight Dio, much like the Belmonts are there to fight Dracula.
It's like it's in his bloodline, isn't it? It's like he's like meant to be just there. It's their destiny. Is probably the thing that ties it all together. It's the Joestar destiny. Is that a way of putting it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I seriously do want to throw it out there though. It's complete coincidence that I came up with that comparison and that it fits so well. I actually didn't plan this. Pepe can attest to this. We didn't even talk about this beforehand. It was a complete accident, but it is the perfect comparison.
But yeah, so like, should we just start with part one? Let's just go into it. By the way, just a disclaimer that neither of us have actually read the manga.
No, we are anime scrub lords.
Yeah, so like I think the main reason that I got into the anime is because I've seen like the memes online. I think that this was around Stardust Crusaders time, and I got really into it from that. And then obviously I checked out the series from it. I think I did try and check out like years before, like when the anime hadn't actually launched yet, like the second wave of it anyway, like parts 1, 2, and 3, etc. But I just couldn't get into it. And then when the new anime came around, I checked that out. It was really cool. Got really into that. But I've read part 2 and part 1 of the manga, but I haven't read all of part 3, and I haven't read past that basically.
Okay,
that's my experience with it. I don't know if you've read any of the manga at all, Nathan.
I actually haven't read any of it. The reason I got into the anime was because Pepe told me to watch it. Literally nothing else. I was talking to him when he was like really into it. I think part 3 had just about ended at that point. And Pepe and a few other friends were like, have you heard of this thing, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure? You should watch it. It's really good. I also had a cousin who was like really into it. The reason I got into Jojo was because I just finished reading Fist of the North Star, and I saw a picture of Jonathan Joestar, and I was like, who's that Kenshiro ripoff? who's that Kenshiro looking motherfucker? He looked like Kenshiro, but he ain't Kenshiro. What is this? And yeah, from there I watched the series, and it's just been an ongoing appreciation for what it is. Really,
I think it's like it's one of those series that like I think if anyone checks it out, like they're either going to be like kind of weirded out by it a little bit and they might not continue, or they're going to absolutely love it. That's what I feel happens with this series.
Yeah, I've explained to people, so many of my other friends, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the hardest series to recommend to someone, because normally like you'd be like, oh, if you like this, go and watch this. But JoJo's is so strange and so anime at times. I only recommend it to friends that I know are like hardcore into like manga and anime. Like people who truly understand how weird it can get and just overlook that straight away and just get into a series. Otherwise, I don't bother. Like if all you've said is, oh, you know, I watched Dragon Ball back in the day, or I sort of watched a little bit of Naruto. I would never go JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because
No, 100
because I'm like,
100%
you're
it's
a normie, you won't get it, and I'm not that much better than the normies. I'm not gonna lie, but at least I understand and I can overlook it because I'm just like, it's anime and it's weird.
I think it's one of those ones where like there's nothing like similar to JoJo out there. It's a weird thing to say. There's some things which like share concepts with JoJo. Like you could argue that Shaman King shares concepts with JoJo, but like
I mean, I think there's little things here and there that you're like, oh, well, that you can see in something else. Like, we often make the comparison of Persona and JoJo
yeah,
because from part 3 onwards, where they have stands, you're like, oh, it's like a Persona, and it kind of is. That's a stand is also almost like a Persona. It's except it manifests in a different way, but it still
yeah,
comes down to like someone who is mentally strong enough to face their real self, and now it's the personification of their realized self or their resolve or whatever anime stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's certainly, yeah, as you said, there's certain comparisons you can go for that, but I think the storytelling in JoJo is very like, I don't know, it just feels different from most other anime. You could be wrong. I think someone could be in the comments right now saying like, oh no, it actually compares to this thing, or you can compare it to this thing. Like, yeah, he could do. But I've only seen JoJo as JoJo. I haven't seen anything that's like it
That's
before.
the thing. I do feel like JoJo is one of those where you're like, there really isn't much else like it. At least I don't feel so. And you know, you can say, oh, this is like this, or this was clearly influenced by that. But like, I don't know. JoJo is like, I don't
I
know,
think
man.
it's got a certain style about it, isn't it? Like, but we will get into a lot of these points later on. I feel like when we go through the series, should we talk about the start of the series then? The start of the whole
Okay,
JoJo's
so
Bizarre Adventure.
part 1, Phantom Blood, focuses on Jonathan Joestar, the first JoJo, and Dio. Does Dio have a surname, or is he always just Dio?
It's Dio Brando.
Oh yeah, duh, idiot. Fucking hell.
Yeah. It's weird though because he loses it in part 3. It's weird. But that's the thing. Like in part 3, spoiler alert. He's just Dio, capital Dio. So
That's the thing. From if all you know is the memes, right? It pretty much is just Dio. And
Mm.
whenever most people refer to Dio, they just say Dio. I feel like I rarely ever hear someone say Dio Brando anymore.
yeah, it is just Dio. It's the same way like it's JoJo as well. Like, I don't think many people go Jonathan Joestar. Jotaro is Jotaro, I guess.
Look, okay, right. Here's the thing. I feel like to your point there specifically, I think the only one people do tend to forget is Jonathan Joestar. I think most people do know the names of most of the other JoJos, like
Yeah.
Joseph Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, Josuke Hishikata. I always stumble on that last one. I know the surname, but you know when it's like, because it's
Yeah.
like full on Japanese, I'm like,
It's Higashikata, I think.
yeah, that's what I said, just
Yeah,
not
yeah,
as
yeah.
competent.
It's very, yeah. You just like spelling it out for anyone that wasn't too
Yeah.
sure on how it's spelled. Of
And then
course,
there's,
yeah.
you know, Giono Giovanni, and then
That one always catches me off guard because you look at the name,
Yeah, I
you're
know.
like, that's not Jojo. And he's like, wait,
Gio,
Gio.
Gio, Jojo. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there you go. Then
Like
you got
Jolene Cujo,
Jolene Cujo and then Johnny Joestar.
which, by the way, have you ever noticed that Cujo for Jolene is spelt differently than Cujo for Jotaro?
Yeah, doesn't one of them have a U at the end or something?
From what I've seen online, Jotaro Cujo is Kujo, right? But then Jolene Cujo is like Cujoh,
Really?
something
Okay.
like that, and it's like, what? But he's your dad. How is your surname so different?
Okay. Again, we don't even like. There might be an explanation for this.
Yeah,
I
probably.
haven't actually
Again,
seen any of part 6.
we've only gotten to part 5 because that's as far as the anime's got, and we only watched the anime.
So, but yeah, but that's like the Joestar run. I did part 8 is also Josuke Higashikata,
Yeah, but he's
but part 8 form.
He's Josuke the 8th.
Yeah, which is just I don't even know what that means.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, I think if you read Jojo Lion, like you could probably explain it, but I have no clue. As an outsider who barely has any knowledge of part 8, I know bits of part 6. I know bits of part 7, but I have no knowledge whatsoever of part 8.
Wait. Part 7 is Jojo on horses, isn't it?
Yeah, Steel Ball Run. I like to think that they like just gave up on the name, like you had Phantom Blood, Battle Tendency, Jojo on horses. Like Araki was like, "Fuck it, it's being called this now."
Oh man.
But yeah, like that's the thing. That is the only thing I know about Steel Ball Run. I know that Gyro Sapelli is the sort of main character in it. And for people like he's more of a focus, I believe, than actual Johnny.
Yeah, but that's because Johnny's also paralyzed, isn't he, from the waist down?
Just because he's paralyzed doesn't mean he can't have main character
Look, I'm not discriminating, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, I
like,
know.
in an action, like, manga, you know,
Yeah.
in an action series, maybe if he wrote himself into a corner when he's like, yeah, the Jojo of this one, his legs don't work.
Yeah.
But it's all
like,
on horses.
It's fine. I mean, it's like character building at the end of the day. Like, as I said, I have no idea what goes on. I have like an idea of what goes on in part 7, but I don't know of the full idea.
Same, but that is also because we played what is it, Eyes of Heaven on PS4?
Eyes of Heaven, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only reason I have any idea of what goes on beyond part 5.
Yeah, it's the exact same for me. Like, annoyingly, when you play Eyes of Heaven, they do have spoilers, and like the annoying thing is, I know for a fact, I know at least one person that dies in part 6.
It's been a long time since I played a game, so I think I've forgotten.
Yeah, I know like the name of it, and I know the main antagonist of it because it's not a Dio for once, or
but it is someone who like worships Dio, so
yeah,
good enough.
It's all tied in, yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, I think the only series part that doesn't have a Dio tie-in is probably part 4. I think.
Yeah. Well, beyond there's a Jojo, so.
Yeah, but I feel like I keep on trying to bring it back to Phantom Blood, but like we just go like so off topic and like start talking about fucking all the other parts.
We're talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This will be our own bizarre adventure about the bizarre adventure.
Like, if you're expecting a chronological discussion,
you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah, you've definitely come to the wrong place. We've jumped from part 1 to part 7 pretty quickly. Well, we haven't even discussed the in-betweens of it, basically.
If you really think about it, we went all the way from 1 to 8, and then we sort of... And now we've like jumped around. We did a little bit of 7, and a little bit of 4. Why don't we then go back to 2?
It's just like, yeah, could go chronological. Nah, just put on shuffle. This is what this is. It's the Cultured Boy Shuffle JoJo
Pretty much.
discussion. So, part 1. Like, okay, what are your thoughts on part 1 to begin with? What are your thoughts on it? Like, Jonathan Joestar, Dio Brando, the whole story of it.
I enjoy part 1 for what it is. It's no one's favorite, but it sets the foundation for the entire series. And my argument to most people is it achieves what it was set out to do, right? It's supposed to be filled with exposition because it needs to build the whole world. It needs to set everything for everything else, yeah? And take out all the content, you know, the things people don't like, because most people are like, oh, Hamon, that was crap, and oh, it was boring because this, that, and the other. But really think about it, right? You cannot have the rest of JoJo the way it is without part 1 setting it the way it did. It needs to be there to do its job. You know, it's just there as a stepping stone for the rest of the franchise, I feel like. And it's a good stepping stone. You could have been worse starts to a series.
100%, yeah. I think it's as you said, like, you wouldn't have like story points in part 3 or part 2 for that matter of fact, like without part 1. It's a stepping stone. I think I agree it's probably not my favorite part. If anything, I'd probably argue that it's my least favorite, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad story at all.
That's the thing, and I think most people do that though. Like, you know, when they're like, oh, I didn't like it, but that also to them means like, oh, it was shit. And it's like, no, it was still pretty decent. It's just, you know, it doesn't hit the same as the rest of it because it just can't.
It's like
it
what
had a
JoJo is
lot to
so
do.
famous. Yeah, what JoJo is so famous for now is its stands and its like epic fights and stuff like that. Which part one definitely has. Part one definitely has some epic fights, and it's like a lot. It's very bloody. It's very JoJo esque. Of course, it would be. It's fucking JoJo, but it just feels good. Like it's a good. It's good. It just feels a bit. If you're a massive fan of part three and onwards, you probably aren't going to like it as much. Like in comparison,
Yeah,
compared to those sort of
for
things.
sure. In comparison, you won't like it. But again, you cannot have anything beyond like part two onwards without part one, because part one sets the whole Joe Stars versus Dio Brando story, and it also sets up the sort of like this setup for the rest of everything. Really, it leads
Yeah.
directly into part two. Part two has a lot of themes that carry on from part one, and then part three, you only get the stuff in part three because of the direct ending of part one.
It's true.
So like part one literally is just all the exposition that needed to be created to like establish the world that's to come.
I feel like part one has just like some really good characters as well. And, like
Oh yeah,
fucking like you get Speedwagon in part one.
yeah,
Like the
that you do.
legendaries, like the legendary that is Speedwagon. Like in the JoJo community, he's just a meme because it's fucking Speedwagon and he's glorious.
You get the first Zeppeli as well, Baron Zeppeli. He was a wicked character. He was my favorite.
Yo, I forgot his name was Baron.
Yeah, yeah. He also turns up in a fucking sick outfit. He's got a top hat. And,
Oh, that top hat is sick.
like, do you know what I mean? And he just shows up and he's like, "Yo, let me show you this thing." And they're like, "Oh my god, he's gonna kill that frog!" And like, because it's Hamon, it goes straight through the frog and breaks the rock. But like, that's how this dude appears. He just comes in and he's like, "Let me show you this thing," and you think, "Oh, he's gonna kill a frog? What a dick!"
I'll tell you what you mentioned about Top Hat. Top Hat's cool. It's so cool that Speedwagon stole it.
Did he
Speedwagon
steal-
stole that hat and he wore it.
Did he?
Yeah, like because Speedwagon only had a bowler hat, didn't he? And then
Oh yeah, shit, he did. He had a top hat ever since. Motherfucker stole Zeppeli's hat.
exactly, like he had because Speedwagon had what was it? He had like a bowler hat with blades in it, kind of like an odd job thing, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that.
And then yeah, he stole Zeppeli's hat. Yeah,
Motherfucker.
he's a thief in Britain, man. That's what he's gonna do.
I mean, he literally was. He literally was a thief before he was Jojo's companion. So,
Oh man, but yeah, part one is good. Like, as I said, not my favorite, but as you said, stepping stone for the rest of it, which is leading on to probably one of my favorite parts of JoJo, which is part two.
yes, a lot of people do really like part two.
Yeah, I think part two was kind of like what part one had, but in my opinion, with a better main character. Like, because the thing is with Jonathan Joestar is that he's he's a goody two shoes. He's like he always does what's right, and he wants to do what's best. Whereas Joseph Joestar, the protagonist
He's a
of part
little
two, is
shit.
just he's just a little shit. He's just a bastard. Like he has
He
like
is.
some amazing memeable moments.
Do you know what? There's one quote from Family Guy, right? But I always think, I think it's the perfect thing for fucking describing Joseph Joestar in part two. You know when Stewie goes to England to go to the BBC, and he's like runs up to the woman who plays like that woman, and he's like, "Mother Maggie," and she's like, "Get lost, you grotty little wanker." I feel like that's the perfect perfect description of Joseph Joestar.
Yeah.
He's a grotty little wanker.
he's most likely gonna tell you that as well to your face. If like
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
he
went
would.
and said, "Oh my god, it's Joseph," it's like
You would.
fuck
He
you.
would. You'd be like,
Yes.
you look cool. What's your deal?" He's like, "Get lost, you grotty little wanker."
That's the thing with like Joseph. He's like he starts off in the series like so obnoxious, like he's so full of himself and he can talk his way out of anything, and that's what makes him like so likable. Is that he's just a little shit compared to Jonathan, like, and that's like I just love that like about his character. Like I think
I hate it.
like the growth of that character as well because he's also present in parts 3 and 4. 4.
Yes.
But like in each of those parts, it's like he's a completely different character himself. Like, and that's like I just love that like about his character. Like I think like the growth of that character as well because he's also present in parts 3 and 4. But like in each of those parts, it's like he's a completely different character himself.
We do also have to explain though that in part 2 he's what, like 18, 20?
Yeah, around that. Yeah, he's young, isn't he? Like,
Yeah, he's young, and in part 3 he's like 60. and
yeah,
then and then part
yeah,
4 he's like 80 or something.
yeah. Like, so he's done a lot of growing. But like, the thing is, like, even though like part three Joseph is different to part two in some ways, like he still keeps like that base Joseph characteristics at points.
Yeah,
Like he still has
he's
like some
still
memeable lines. Yeah. He might be wiser, but he's still Joseph.
he is still kind of obnoxious,
Yeah.
but like less so in part 3. But let's get back to part 2. So
Mm-hmm.
part 2 pretty much, part 1 sets up the whole vampire thing, or like the mask, which then goes straight into part 2, where they fight the Pillar Men, who are like this ancient race that uses the masks to, or created the masks to make vampires or whatever.
It's around that, yeah. Like they basically created like an army of vampires, is what they do. And like there's certain parts of part two which
When you were saying memeable, that talking about the Pillar Men is one of my favorite memeable moments.
yeah.
Is the first Pillar Man comes out and Joseph is like, "I'll distract him," and he walks up and he's like, "Happy smiley destiny, happy smiley destiny," or whatever. But he's just like, this Pillar Man is like destroying this military base or whatever, and you just got this dude come up like, "Happy smiley destiny."
isn't one of Joseph's main weapons at one point in part two.
Like
It's
the
like
clacking
he's got
balls
like
or whatever,
a
innit?
toy of some sort,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like, and he infused it with hamon. Is it right? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he uses at one point.
Yeah, and like it's just like, as I said, like Jonathan's there like using a sword to like fight some vampires and stuff, or he's
And
using
uses
his
like
hamon.
Hamon in his fists.
Yeah,
Like he's physically fighting people, and Joseph's like, "Yo, I got a toy."
yeah,
Or like right at the start where he infuses Hamon into a fucking bottle of Coke that he shook up, so the lid like breaks a policeman's nose. That's
Yeah.
the kind of character he is. He does all sorts of oddball shit, whereas like his ancestor previously is like straight up like, "I will fight you head on."
Here's how different Joseph is to Jonathan. Is that at one point Joseph needs to, for some reason, invade a Nazi base, and to do that he dresses up as a woman, and like proceeds to try and flirt with the guards. Like the whole sentence of invading a Nazi base dressed as a woman, like you,
forgot about
it
that.
just it like. And by the way, this is Jojo as well. Like this guy is muscular as fuck. This guy is ripped to shit. Like he's hench, and he's dressed up as a
Yeah.
woman. Like he's got full on makeup and everything, and it is just like, it is an iconic Jojo moment there. It just sets his character up so well in there.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Also, is like, that's the thing as well. There are Nazis in part
Yeah.
two, but
Yeah,
like it's weird because like the main dude in the Nazi
Von
base is
Stroheim,
basically
innit?
called von Stroheim.
Stroheim. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and he like obviously he's a villain. He's a fucking Nazi, but like it's a very weird situation where like Stroheim actually becomes Joseph's ally.
Well, you know what that is? It's like the typical, like people always say, like, the only way to get the entire human race to work together is if we have one common enemy. That's what that is. Is the Pillar Men is their common enemy. So now Jojo works with a Nazi.
Yeah. Although Stroheim, I can't remember like whatever it is. Like although he is an evil character, he works with Joseph to take down the Pillar Men. It's basically like a great story arc. Like in general, like making unlikable characters. Don't want to say likable, because he's a Nazi at the end of the day.
Say it, Pepe. Say it.
I'm not gonna say.
Have that on the internet forever. Just that voice clip. Go on,
I
do it.
refuse. I absolutely refuse.
Smiley, happy destiny.
Yeah, there we go. That's the vibes I want. That's the vibes I want. But yeah, part two has some great memeable moments. As you said, the Pillar Men, when they wake up, there's that music in the background as well. I don't know if you've seen those memes where it's like, ah, yeah, and then like it's just suddenly goes into this fucking like hip hop like Egyptian music. And like it's just like it's such a good fucking tune. Like although part two is probably one of my favorites, I
It
can't
only gets better
say.
from there.
Yeah, it
Honestly.
does. Yeah, it does get better. I think what makes it my favorite is probably the main character, Joseph.
I always put part one and part two on the same level for me personally. If I really had to rank it, because yeah, I didn't enjoy Joseph as much. I thought he was too obnoxious. But then like I preferred Jonathan Joestar, but at the same time like I don't like either one more or less than the other, so they're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like I think part four after that, like next highest up.
Okay. Well, let's move on to part three now, which is probably everyone's favorite.
That's like the definitive JoJo. When you say
Yeah.
JoJo to most people, that's the one they think of. But that's because that's where all the stuff happens.
It's what feels like the longest part, especially when you compare it to parts one and two.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think part two lasts a little bit longer than part one.
And part
But
three
like
is just
part
like
three goes in, like it changes
it?
the whole concept of what we've seen so far. For one,
they go from this mythical sun energy Hamon to Stand, which, like we said before, is like a persona. If you know Persona, the franchise, it's like this ghost thing that stands behind you.
yeah, it's like it's one of those ones where you have to watch it to understand what the hell is going on with it. Because I feel like if me and Nathan tried to describe what stands are, I don't think we'd do it as much justice.
You sound like a crazy person. You would sound like a mental person, right? Because first of all, explaining what it is makes you sound crazy. Because I literally just said it's a ghost thing that stands behind you. That's why it's called stands, because they stand behind you. But then there's like you're like, oh, there's the classifications. There's like the power ranking. So the stronger it is, the shorter the distance it can be away from you. The weaker it is, the further away it can be from you. They have different abilities, and they can do this and that. And there's one that's a pervy gorilla who tries to rape a little girl, and there's Hermit Purple, and it's just some purple vines that comes out of Joseph's arm. And if he hits something that can take a photo or has a screen, you can see something. It will show him something.
Dio.
Pretty much, yeah.
The annoying thing about Joseph in part three is that like obviously he's a Hamon user. So he from part two. So he's come into part three and he's got a stand now, but his stand is just not as good as anyone else's in the series. I feel like everyone else's stand is better.
He's just there for the memes. Let's face it. You're just there for the Japanese American English. Oh my god! Holy shit! Exactly. See, that's what he's there for. That's what he's there for. He's not there for anything else.
When I said that I got into JoJo because of the memes, this is what I meant. Like I watched a compilation video of Joseph Joestar Part 3's like English, basically.
There is no other way to say that.
Yeah.
Literally.
It is
English.
And it is just like, it's absolutely fucking amazing. Like, it's like a top tier meme material.
There's plenty of it that isn't from Joseph as well. Darby.
It's so true.
Darby Jr. Yes. Oh my god.
There's Steely Dan, which is do you understand?
Hail to you!
Hail to you. Like, there's literally me and Nathan could go on and on about all the best lines in JoJo. Like you could even just like type into YouTube.
Just look up the memes. Do it. Just do it. Watch the series, watch the meme compilations, and you'll see why you should watch it, because it can be really fucking funny. It's just so weird.
That's the thing. Like that's what I love about JoJo though, is because like it's got this like epic like story and adventure of this group of guys which go and try and find Dio, who is back alive again, by the way, spoilers. And
well, I mean, we kind of did that way back when we were like, oh yeah, what's his surname? Dio Brando in part 1, and then from part 3 it's just D-I-O. If that didn't spoil it for you, then I don't know what did.
But yeah, like what JoJo Part 3 is it's weird because like even though the episode's a little one-off battles, I feel.
Yeah, it's like Monster of the Week. kind of Power Ranger style, like the new stand user, new fight. Please continue. I just wanted to
Oh
help
no,
you out there.
you hit the nail on the head. It is that sort of vibe about it. And then having that adventure though, like you still get that sense of adventure. You still feel like they're making progress, like, and that it's the epic fights as well. Like every fight like has like a small twist to it. I feel
But
like
most fights tend to end with
exactly. It is exactly that. It is like no matter what
yada yada
happens.
does it.
Well, one thing I'll say about JoJo Part 3 is that, yeah, story's brilliant, the stand users are brilliant, like, everything's cool. But, like, Jotaro is probably one of the plainest main characters I have ever seen in a manga.
Do you know what the strangest thing about Jotaro is? He's supposed to be dressed like a delinquent, right? Like a Japanese school delinquent. But when you really think about it, he's like one of the best good boys there is.
It's true, like, he's like, got a strong sense of justice. Like, and
Yeah,
he's, like...
it's really weird because he dresses like the 90s delinquents in Japan. They had the uniform, but it was always like disheveled and open and customized to whatever the fuck they felt like it should look like. And, you know, he's supposed to be like, looks like a troublemaker, but he's actually a really good boy.
He's a good boy.
He is, because they set out on this adventure because Dio, at the end of part 1, spoilers, Jonathan dies and he's hugging the head of Dio. Forget why they have that, but that's
fucking Dio's head is just there, isn't it? Yeah. Like
yep.
He's,
and basically stands come about because Dio puts his head on Jonathan's body, which then manifests this strange power called stands, but only people with the strong enough personality or resolve can manifest the stand. If not, the stand could kill them, and that's what happens with Jotaro's mum. They set out on this adventure to defeat Dio so that his mum, Holly, doesn't die from not being strong enough to have this stand, which is also just vines and roses on her back. Ghost vines again. Fucking Joseph.
Yeah. It's all down to him, the bastard. The thing is with Jotaro is that like all he does is punch. That's all he does. He punches and he wins. Like he doesn't like. There's no twists and turns. Like when you have like Polnareff's fights or like Kalkuin's fights or Iggy's fights, they all have like, oh, what's gonna happen here? Like how are they gonna get out of this situation?
There was one episode though. I think it was it the whale or something? Starfinger.
Oh god! Oh fuck yeah! There's yeah. Forgot about this one.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. There's certain bits of Jotaro which are questionable. I don't. It's there. Starfinger, and then there's a bit like where, like I think it's like in the third or fourth episode, where they're on a plane and like Jotaro like catches a bug with his tongue or something like that. Like there's some weird tongue action, like in that.
When you say tongue action, I always think of the fake Kakyoin.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Part 3 is also incredibly memeable by itself.
100%.
I know we said that earlier, but seriously, Oingo Boingo Brothers, they're my favorite.
Fuck yeah,
that song, do yourself a favor and type in Oingo Boingo Brothers. Listen to that song at the end of the episode, and then look for the one with Whole Horse.
There's like certain characters that just stick in my mind because like. The two characters stick out in my mind is Whole Horse and Polnareff, because like Polnareff is like the most unlucky guy in that whole series. By the way, everyone's after him. Like Polnareff gets like fucked like every single time. And I remember like I think it's the Empress, which is the old lady when there's like a mansion or something, and like Whole Horse is in this mansion and it's a big haunted thing, like basically. And all I know is his voice clips from, I think it's Enya. Her name is Enya, the old lady.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, there's two voice lines. She says "Hold the horse," and literally there's like points where she's just screaming his name, "Hold the horse," and that's ingrained in my mind. And then it's also Polnareff as well. Polnareff. Like those two, because they're said so fucking often in those series, they're just ingrained in my mind. That those voice clips are ingrained in there.
See, that's why I remember the Oingo Boingo Brothers, because those two songs are really stuck in my brain. I've listened to them so many times. Oingo Boingo Brothers! Oingo Hojos Combi!
Combi. Oh man.
If this wasn't copyrighted, I wish we could play a clip of it, but seriously, go look it up. I love those songs so much.
It's brilliant. Like that's the thing of part 3. There's so many great points in it. Like
there is
storytelling, memes. Like it just what like you just want to keep on watching episode after episode with part 3. Yes, I'd like highly recommend that one. So, part 4.
Here is more monster of the week, and this is more so. It's pretty much. I know we said it was like part 3 was like that, but this is like even shorter. Pepe said, some of the episodes in part 3 sometimes had like multiple episodes for one fight. I felt like part 4 was pretty much always like one and done.
It's only in towards like literally the last quarter, I'd say, of the series where we get into the main villain. I'd say like that's where it really starts picking up.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy the villain of part 4, Yoshikage Kira.
He was cool.
He's got like a sick stand, and like even when you see his fight with Koichi and Jotaro, because Jotaro is back.
Koichi.
Like Koichi's alright. It's Shigechi. Which
no, I just meant, you know, when you think about he spends the whole of part 4 evolving and getting better at his stand, and it starts off this cell-looking little fucker.
Yeah.
And like cell form 1 little fucker, and then turns into this fucking little humanoid guy going SHIT.
I think one of his voice lines is "kill the bitch," like in English as well.
What a really bad time to take a sip of water. Fucking hell, you almost made me choke. Fuck me.
This one, like literally, there's the thing. The English in JoJo just continues throughout the whole thing. That's one great thing about JoJo. It's not just limited to one part. It's like, I can't wait when we
get to part 5 and we can talk about fucking. What do you even call it? The fucking Japanese Italian.
Oh god, yeah, we'll get to the Japanese Italian in a bit for sure. But yeah, part 4 is, as Nathan said, it's very like villain of the week.
Sometimes it's not even a villain. It's just a new stand user, like the restaurant guy. If they go into this restaurant, the guy's a stand user, the chef, and his ability is to basically feed you something that will make you healthier or better. It improves your body, right? But the whole episode is them being suspicious of this guy because he's a stand user, and they keep thinking like, oh, we're gonna have to fight this guy. What's his deal? And he literally is just like, I just want to cook you food and make you healthy.
I think that's it with like half the characters in part 4, or half the stand users anyway. Like they're just there, and like they become like Josuke's friends by the end of it, or it feels like it. Like they make a small group of like stand users that know each other. And then like obviously there's the like more evil ones. Like I can't remember the guy's name, but he has Red Hot Chili Pepper as his stand.
That was the electric one, isn't it? Like
like, I can't remember what his name is, but
I don't remember his name. I remember Chili Pepper.
But like he's a villain, but I don't think he's not connecting to Yoshikage Kira at all. But
no, he was just part with the what's it? Yoshikage Kira's fucking ghost photo dad with
ghost
the arrow.
Photo dad. Like it's as weird as it sounds.
I told you before. You try and describe JoJo, and you'll sound like a mental person.
I mean,
ghost
like,
photo dad.
Every part that we've described so far, part 2 has fucking Nazis. Part 3 has a fucking rapist gorilla. Part 4 has like a fucking ghost photo dad.
And invisible baby.
And invisible baby. There's an invisible baby there, and like Joseph's looking after it. But it's great. Like,
and a cat flower.
Cat flower, which the main villain Yoshikage Kira keeps as a pet.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he? Shit.
Yeah, he just finds it growing in his backyard, and he's like, okay, cool, this is mine now.
I made this.
But Yoshikage Kira just wanted to live a normal life, but he's a serial killer. So
falls in love with a specific hand, like
Yeah.
women's hands. Which one is it again?
Yeah.
Is it the right or the left? I can't remember.
But it's just all I know is like he has hands and he has like that weird.
Yeah, he's weird.
There's some like very interesting characters in part 4. I think like probably the weirdest ones so far, like in terms of like, well, no, weird is like I'd say quirky. Like the characters in part 4 is very quirky characters.
Quirky is just the polite way of saying weird.
Yeah,
You know
I
that,
suppose
right? Just saying the same thing. You're just being less offensive.
But yeah, I don't know if there's much else to speak on part 4. To be fair,
There really
because I think
anything else you say just becomes a spoiler from that point.
yeah, and even then, like I think you really want to check out like part 4. I think like that's the thing as well. I think I enjoyed part 4 more than part 1, but I don't think it hit part 2 levels of hype for me, or part 3.
I mean, it definitely doesn't touch part 3, but
Yeah. No,
let's move on to the final part in the anime so far. Part 5. This this Jojo isn't even technically related to the Joestars because he's Dio's son. But Dio, whilst he had his head on Jonathan's body,
Yeah, had a child.
yeah. So I guess he is kind of a Joestar, but not really.
Yeah, it's like he has the blood in him basically. He has the Joestar blood in him, but he also
Yeah.
has Dio blood in him,
He's got that Brando blood.
and he's also Italian.
Yes.
So that this one is the like yeah. So parts 1 and 2. No, part 1 takes place in the UK.
Yeah, part 1 is England, part 2 is America, and
Part 3
Italy,
is
part of Italy. Don't forget, he does go to Europe to train with Lisa.
he does actually. Yeah, that's true.
And part 3 is Japan and mostly Egypt.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a world trip.
It's like a journey
so-
to Egypt, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like, that's
so
the thing,
it's
really.
from Japan to Egypt.
Yeah.
Then part 4 is just Japan.
Yes.
And then part 5 is just Italy.
Italy. But like, so the whole point of part 5 is it's gangsters basically,
Gang
or gang
stars.
stars.
There's a difference.
Yeah, it's it's there, and
So stupid. So you're gonna be a gangster? No, I'm gonna be a gangstar.
gangstar. Like it's just a JoJo thing. It's like the thing is with the gangstar thing, like it's just a motive at the end of the day. Like you don't hear Giorno talk about it much else after that. It's like basically
No.
their whole like they basically like on their journey together as because basically Giorno meets up with a couple other characters, Bucciarati, who is the head of a branch of this gangstar family.
I love that you said gangstar. Like you
Is
really emphasized it. I appreciate that.
I'm really getting on board. I'm like, have to like basically. I said gangster once. I'm never gonna go back to gangster again. It's gangstars from now on. But,
Amazing.
But yeah, like it's this branch of gangstars, and basically, Giorno's aim is to probably get to the top of this family and become the boss, so he can stop drugs in his city.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Basically, all the other gangs are selling drugs to kids, and he wants to be the leader of this one particular gang because when he was a kid, the leader of the gang at the time was like really good to him or something, and like was against selling drugs to kids. But all of a sudden, like over the years, people just gave up on that rule, and Giorno wants to stop that. They talk about resolve a lot.
Yeah, I think like, but then very quickly the aim to like the boss of the family gives Bucciarati and his branch a task to deliver the boss's daughter back to the boss basically. And that becomes the aim, and then the story unfolds from there, and it's very much like the rest of parts 3 and 4, where it is your villain of the week or stand user of the week for a lot of it, until I'd say about halfway through the series. That's when it changes, that's when it shifts a bit, and you get more story focused in it, I feel.
Yeah, that's about right. There's some great moments in this too, like many a memeable moment. The dance on the boat,
The torture dance. Dances.
Where the fuck did that come from? Another meme I've seen a lot of is you know when they start beating the shit out of that one guy when they're all like jumpy at the cafe.
I remember watching that in the episode. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" I
Yeah,
think,
especially because like it starts off with like Narancha or something,
yeah,
and then like each new character turns around like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "This guy," and he's like, "Fuck you!" Like,
yeah. I think it's Abakio that like is just drinking wine, and he sees Mister and Narachi just beating the shit out of him, and he's like, it's like so sophisticated. He looks over. And he just joins in. He just joins in, stamping on this guy's head, and it's like.
then there's our favorite quote,
Oh.
"Di molto." Like, oh my god,
Molto.
the amount of times we were doing that after that episode, it was like every other second. It was just any time. It became like a Naruto with like Datebayo. We would end sentences with just "Di molto."
What's the other bit? The doppio.
Ah.
Doppio.
Moshi moshi, bossu.
Like, how do you even describe doppio? Because
It's kind of like a multiple personality thing. The boss is his personality is in Doppio,
yeah.
but Doppio is like a, I guess, mentally challenged kid. He's like he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's a good boy, kind of.
He's good, but like all he wants to do is like do the boss proud, basically. But the boss is also living within him, and the only way he communicates with the boss is through phone calls. But this isn't necessarily through a phone. He will literally just like stop, pause, and go. And he's like, "Where's this noise coming from?"
Yeah, and he'll do anything to pick up the phone. You get in his way, and he'll beat the shit out of you, just to pick up an item to put to his face. And like I did earlier, moshi moshi, bossu.
Yeah, is that it? That is spot on. And it isn't like it's not even an item related to a phone at all. Like at one point, he picks up a frog.
One point, it was a discarded cigarette that was trapped in between some rocks.
Like at one point, it's an ice cream, and he just like puts the ice cream
Yep.
to his face, and it's like
I think the best thing about that whole scene, besides the sound effects that he makes for the phone, is the fact that his eyes go like he goes like the opposite of cross-eyed. Like his eyes just go outwards, and he just starts going. Moshi moshi, bossu.
oh, it's fantastic. Like Doppio is like just one of those characters. He's like my favorite, one of my favorites for sure.
Go and watch the series or look that up on YouTube. I wish we could put that in our video. That's like one of my favorite things from part 5 is Doppio doing the fucking phone bit. But
oh man, that's like it's as you said earlier as well. The English Italian thing, like the di molto, the
arrivederci.
Bucciarati is like absolutely fucking amazing line, which is arrivederci, where like he finishes off one of the villains, and it is sick. Like that's one of the best moments in that series.
Oh, what's his face? Also, it's not even Japanese Italian. It is just Japanese. What's his name? Pesci, the guy with the
Pesci. Yeah.
I also have him stuck in my mind. Aniki,
oh bloody hell!
Aniki, doshite.
Pesci, like I think is where Pesci snaps is just another one that's like brilliant. The whole train that when if anyone like watches this and they know the train bit basically where they have to take down Pesci and I can't remember the other guy's name.
The
Aniki. Aniki. Pesci and Aniki. They have to take them down. And, like,
take down Pesci and Big Bro.
Yeah, there's like Pesci and Big Bro.
That's what Aniki is. It's just Big Bro, isn't it? So
yeah.
we don't even know his name. We're just Pesci and Big Bro.
Pesci and Big Bro. But like, there's so many twists and turns in it as well. Like, not just in that one episode or couple of episodes. It's like that whole series just has so many good twists. And like, God, like that's one thing I love about JoJo. It's just the twists that come in, like when you get really into a fight. There's some good stuff there.
Oh yeah, they got really great fights. Solutions are not always what you expect, but there is also, like we've said so many times, just the comedy factor. There is for a series that is about things like gangsters and mythical beings, like paranormal beings that come from your own psyche, to fucking phone bits and Demoto and holy shit, like the comedy balances it out really well. Just go and check it out. We cannot say it enough. Go watch the series. It's also important to say I've never watched the dub, so I can't recommend the dub, but I have watched it subbed, and that is where you will get all of these amazing English lines and bits. That's where we've learned them from.
I think I've watched a couple episodes of dub. The dub, like, I'll tell you what, the dub is actually good. It is good, but like, you want that JoJo subbed experience. That's the experience you want.
You want that meme factor, man.
That meme, exactly. It is that. Like, I'd say if you're really not into subs and you really can't stand like the subtitle stuff,
YouTube compilation.
it is, watch the meme compilations as well. Like, if you want those meme factors, but like, I'd say check it out. Even if you are go watch the dub or whatever, just like check it out. It is good.
Yeah, more people should get into JoJo. Although
I feel like it's a lot it's a lot more popular than it was, say, 10 years ago. For sure,
it was
definitely.
a cult classic when it first came out, and for the longest it was a cult. And now, because of this newer version of the anime from David Productions, I believe,
that's the one.
It's blown up like a lot. So you've actually probably never had a better time to try and get into JoJo, because again, the anime is fresh, the animation is great. And we're still going through it. Like, as of recording, we're still waiting for any confirmation of when part 6 is coming to the anime. So
I will say this: there was the and thus spoke Rohan. There was basically an OVA series where it's 4 episodes long. It's on Netflix right now.
Watch that too. That's good.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I did. I've seen all of it.
Yeah, it is a really good series. I liked it. It's very much part 4 style, but it's not stands. It's not.
It's like, very JoJo, but in a different way. It's still really like paranormal and strange, but it's not about stands, like Pepe said.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I mean, when like it feels like Araki just wanted to like do his own short stories again.
Yeah.
But like he put them under the JoJo name, and it still works though. It's still really good.
I actually kind of want more of it.
Oh, I'd love to see more of that stuff.
That'd be cool.
I've got the one JoJo manga that I have kind of completed. I say it's completed, but it's Rohan Visits the Louvre in France. You know, the art museum, or Louvre. I can't remember how it's pronounced in French.
I don't know. I never studied French. I think you're right. It is like Louvre or something.
Yeah, but basically the Louvre and Araki actually made a partnership at one point, and basically he, like, the whole story of Rohan in Visits to the Louvre is basically Rohan going to this art museum and investigating like the like it's haunted or something, like the basements are haunted in it.
Okay.
And it's basically what the premise of Thus Spoke Rohan is. So it's that exact same concepts, but it's all in the Louvre, and it's really good. I'd recommend that as well if you ever need to read that.
I'll look that up later. I think you told me about it. I don't think we actually went into detail about it before.
It's a short story. It's only like about 100 pages long or something. But
so long.
It's a good short. So it's like the sort of length of you would get a one shot, basically.
Fair enough. That's about as much as we can talk about JoJo, to be honest. Because again, we only really watched the anime and we played one of the games. Play the game too. It's all right. It's not bad.
I'm sure when part 6 comes out, we'll start another discussion about that, like when it's over or something.
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when our next video comes out. And we will see you in another episode.
Nice one. Ciao.
Jojo!